Hey guys, I want to quickly introduce myself. My name's Matt Allen. I work in product marketing at MarkLogic, and I'm here with David Corbett.
Hi, yeah, I'm David. I run engineering at MarkLogic.
So we're going to talk a little bit today about data governance and security. Today, security is a big topic in the world of tech. There's I read one stat saying that there will be $100 billion invested in cybersecurity by the year 2020. And sometimes security and data governance kind of get mixed up. They get a little bit confused. David, can you tell us a little bit more about what the difference is between security and data governance?
Yeah, sure. So when I think about governance of your data, I don't think about it in a narrow kind of just a data quality sense or a data dictionary or metadata sense. I think it's really about applying policy to your data. So if you've got some sort of policy that you need to apply to your data, whether that's a security policy or a privacy policy or a lifecycle policy or a compliance policy, data quality or retention, all of those, go under this big umbrella for me of governance. And, sometimes when you say governance, people, their eyes glaze over and they say, okay, well, that's not really my job. I'm part of the line of business. I'm not part of the information security office or the data governance office, or, I'm really just much more interested in getting stuff done. But these policies are important to the business. So if you ask somebody, do you have things that you need to do with your data? Do you have things that have to happen, like the right people see your data, but the wrong people don't see your data, which comes back to security. People will say, yes, definitely, that's a really important requirement. And so, they care. They care about how they govern their data. So security to me is just a special case of a set of policies you might want to apply to data.
Right. And I know this is very important for the organizations we work with. We're typically talking to Fortune 500 organizations that are often in regulated industries. It's something that everybody recognizes is important, but it's so hard to get people to really actually care about it. Like you said, they sometimes just want to hit the snooze button and they consider data governance as tax. Why is it so hard to get people in the organization to actually care about data security and data governance and actually do something about it?
Well, I think people care about it. I mean, I think part of the difficulty is that it's hard to kind of know how to affect a lot of these policies in a lot of cases. So, when you have a system where you've got multiple different silos of data and you've got data in lots of different places, or you have then you have lots of different technologies, where you have a technology that doesn't have security capabilities, then you have to worry about, well, how am I going to, secure this data, or how am I going to apply whatever my policy is to this data? If you don't have a data platform that really makes it easy to support that, then it's a hard problem. The other problem is if you've got security in your application layer or any kind of policy enforcement in your application, if you're a large organization, you might have tens of thousands of IT developers writing applications. Are they all going to understand all the policy that needs to apply to the data they're dealing with? In the financial industry, they're tracking, up to 200 rule changes every single day. Are you going to educate 30,000 developers on 200 rule changes a day? It's not possible. So, it's not so much that they don't care, it's that it seems like an intractable problem, in a lot of cases.
Right. And there's some consequences if you don't care about data governance and security, right? I mean, you were mentioning some examples of what's happening in these organizations when you aren't able to track where your data comes from or how it's being used.
Oh, yeah. Like a good example is, Yahoo disclosed that they had, I think, it was over 1 billion customer records hacked. I mean, that has an impact on a very real impact on that company's valuation, on people's perception of that company. There's a story I heard recently. There's a tragic story about a patient in a hospital who died because the prescription system didn't talk to the pharmacy system. And so there was a swivel chair integration, and the prescription that was prescribed was correct, but the technician at the pharmacy entered it into the pharmacy system wrong, and it was made 60 times more potent than it was supposed to be. And as a result, the patient died. And, people are not trying to make mistakes like that. People are trying not to make mistakes. And I'm sure that pharmacy technician feels terrible. I mean, they have to live with that. Right. But these are very real costs to data integration and data quality problems. and they impact any industry.
Yeah, so there'll probably be a growing area of interest in data governance insurance, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think everywhere there's a growing interest. I think this. It's not just in insurance; it's in healthcare, it's in delivery. It's I mean, there's a human cost to data problems, and I think people are aware that there are these human costs and that there are these things, that these repercussions to having bad quality data or having data that's insecure or not being able to apply their policy to their data. And I think they want to do better. They really do. And I think it's getting to the point now where I think it's intolerable for a company to lose control of their data. And so, yeah, I think 2017 is going to be the year of data governance from the perspective of people really feeling like they have to do something about it. The question is, what can they do about it, right? What can they do about it? They need to be able to bring that policy and that data together in a system that can actually manage it properly. And that's the thing that we think MarkLogic can help with.
Absolutely. And I know you'll be speaking at some upcoming MarkLogic events. And can you tell us a little bit about what you'll be speaking about?
Yeah, so MarkLogic World is coming up in Chicago. That's going to be exciting. I'm also going to Tokyo and London this year. And I'll be talking a lot about what we've been talking about, being able to apply policy and have that policy affected in your data. But it's really about, last year I talked about the difficulty getting your data together and the need to get data together so that you can get a 360-degree operational picture of things that you care about in your business, and how MarkLogic can help with that. We have a different approach to data integration that can make it a lot easier to do that. This year, I'm going to talk more about, well, what happens when you do that? What happens once you've brought all your data together? How do you manage that data? There's a lot of requirements that you need to do, that you need to affect on that data. How do you secure it? How do you manage its life cycle? How do you analyze it and get value out of it? There's lots of things that MarkLogic can do to help customers not just integrate their data, but get value out of it and manage it appropriately.
So if I was a data architect, or somebody making decisions about how do I improve governance, what are some of the top questions I should be asking?
Well, I mean, the first question that I would ask if I'm a data architect is, what are my goals? Like, what do I need to do with my data? What areas do I have that I need to either design or affect a policy on? I mean, security is a really, really obvious one. So a lot of people are thinking about security, but in lots of industries, there are other equally important data policy areas, like data geolocation. Data is not allowed, about certain things is not allowed to leave the country, or there may be policies about data lifecycle. I'm not allowed to keep data of a certain type for longer than a certain length of time. And as I'm designing my enterprise architecture and thinking about my what my entity models are and what the things that I care about in my business are, I should also be thinking about how I want to treat those things. Not just about, here's a customer and a customer has a name and a customer has an ID, but a customer actually needs to be treated in a certain way. A customer record can only be seen by certain people. And I should be thinking about that up front. I should design that into my plans, because, if I think about it later, then it may be hard to reverse engineer into my system.
Right. And as you said, the M in DBMS, it stands for management. It should be part of what you're getting when you get a database.
Yeah, I like to say that. I mean, to me, management is not just about storing data durably and querying it flexibly. It's about helping you actually do the things with your data that you need to do in order to really manage it properly. And, it's very sad today that there's some DBMSs that don't even store data durably or query it flexibly, but in many cases, they don't go, even if they do those things, they don't go much further in terms of helping you manage your data. MarkLogic, I'm really proud to say, is the most secure NoSQL database in the industry. We're the only NoSQL database that's common criteria certified. We're the only NoSQL database that has very, very granular role-based access controls, in the database layer. Security so often is thought of as this hard shell, network security with a really soft, squishy interior. And we're in a world now where, defending that shell and then hoping nobody will get through it, and not defending the actual crown jewels inside that shell, which is your data, is just not a very good approach. You need to be able to apply your security policy or other policies at the data layer in the database.
Yeah. And you mentioned element level security. That's a new feature that's coming out in our soon to be released MarkLogic 9. Can you talk a little bit more about the new data security features that are going to be in MarkLogic 9?
Yeah, we have a number of new security features in MarkLogic 9, based on things that we're seeing customers asking for, what customers need. So MarkLogic already today, like I said, has the most secure NoSQL database. We have, record level role-based access controls where you can apply, different permissions to different records. But in some cases, you may want to apply different permissions to certain pieces of certain records, that are different from the overall record. So for example, say I have a customer record and it's got a credit card number in it. And I only want certain types of people to see the credit card number where other types of people can see the rest of the record. I can, in MarkLogic 9, apply security just to that credit card number that's different from the security that I apply to the record as a whole. And MarkLogic will automatically redact that credit card number out of the record for anybody who doesn't have that permission. And it's very security at the very deep level. So it's redacted from the indexes. You can't query. You can't fish through the indexes. So that's a really important feature. We've also got cases where people say, I just want to be able to anonymize things, right? Because I have data in my production system.
Right.
I want to move it to a QA system, or I want to be able to make it available for aggregate analytics to a data scientist. And I want the data to be there, but I don't want it to be necessarily the actual real data. I want to anonymize somebody's social security number, or I want to anonymize their phone number. So we have a feature in MarkLogic 9 as well, which is a redaction feature that allows you to define data transformations and have them affected on your data, either on export or in your application code. And then finally, I talked about that hard shell with the soft, squishy interior problem. We're addressing that in MarkLogic by doing transparent data encryption. So you'll be able to encrypt all of the data in the database. Your system administrator, even if they have access to the file system, will not have access to your data. Your DBA or people who are using the database, the security role-based access controls we have protect the data from them. And you can have the security administrator be a separate person from your DBA and your system administrator. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So this is a really important feature that a lot of our customers are looking forward to for moving beyond their on-premises deployments. Customers are saying, I really would like to move to the cloud, but I want to be able to be sure that my data can be secure in the cloud.
Right. So the cloud by nature is really an open network. And so you really got to pay more attention to the security controls that you have in place.
Yeah. And it's not like the major cloud vendors have insecure networks. I mean, they have secure networks, but what you're doing is you're using the cloud partly to be able to have, easy access to that data for people who need it.
Right.
You also want to make sure that you have hard access or no access to that data for people who don't need it. And that's the key important thing. So being able to secure your data in the cloud allows you to share your data, but it also gives you, requires you to think more about how you're going to secure it. It's like Joe Pasqua likes to say, governance is not really a tax, it's an enabler.
Right.
If you have good security and good governance of your data, then you can open your data up and have people use it.
Yeah.
If you don't, then you can't.
For those listening, Joe Pasqua runs our product team at MarkLogic.
Right. Sorry about that.
Yeah. So it seems like there is this turning away from the idea of creating a data lake. Because what companies are finding is, I created this data lake. It's in the cloud. It's accessible. But all of a sudden, the doors are open and all their data is all in one place and very vulnerable. And we see people starting to actually shut down their data lakes in some cases.
Yeah, and that's true not just in the cloud, but on premises as well. Even within an organization's walls, there are certain people who should see certain data and other people who shouldn't see certain data. And there are rules about, how data needs to be managed. And one of the big problems that we're starting to see with customers who are building data lakes is that they can put pretty much anything in these data lakes. And so then the chief information security officer comes by and says, "Oh, you've got a data lake. Well, that's great. What Can you prove to me that there's no data in this data lake that is subject to regulatory requirements, legal holds, or PII concerns or things like that? Oh, no, you don't really know that? Well, until you can prove that to me and prove that you are actually managing that data appropriately, nobody can access this. So you've spent all this time and all this money building this data lake, and the only people who can access it are the people who who basically own that data. You can't share that data with anybody. And so what is the point of building a data lake like that? So people are finding that they need to be able to manage and control, and apply policy to this data. It's not enough just to be able to bring it together.
Great. So, David, I know you'll be speaking at these upcoming MarkLogic World events. So I'm going to cut the conversation off here because I know that there's a lot more you're going to be saying about it soon. And would encourage people to sign up and register for the event and attend if you haven't been to a MarkLogic World event before. It's a really fun event where we do really get into some of the more technical details. David, I want to thank you for your time. There's been a great discussion about data security. There's so much more we can add. I'd like to ask you, if I was going to attend MarkLogic World, but was kind of on the fence, what would you say to convince me to come to MarkLogic World and network with some of my colleagues there in Chicago?
Yeah, I would say, MarkLogic World is a great opportunity for people to come and not just meet people from MarkLogic, but meet other people in industry who have the same problems they have. These problems are not unique to a specific company or even a specific industry. And there are people who are solving problems that you may think are intractable in your organization. And, I think it's very interesting to go and talk to them, find out how they solve these problems, what they're doing. It's a really great networking opportunity for people. And I love talking to customers or, non-customers who have data problems and just learning more about what we as an industry can do to help solve the pressing problems that they have.
Right. And, on a more personal note, that's definitely what I've found about being a relative newcomer to the world of databases, is that it is a community of people that are constantly learning and wanting to learn about new things and challenge each other. And I think, that's why these events are great. It's really about a community coming together and learning from each other, throwing around ideas and ultimately, wanting to build the best product possible so that you can solve meaningful challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks for having me.